So we are going to get started. So thank you very much to everybody that joined us. We are UC Davis Continuing in Professional Education, and we are conducting an info session for this Autism Spectrum Disorder Professional Concentration.
Would you like me to go to the agenda?
Yes, please.
Okay. So my name is Kathy Wyman, and I'm the instructor for Understanding Autism Spectrum Disorders. And I have been doing this online class through UC Davis Extension for nearly 10 years now. My primary job is an inclusion specialist at a school district in Northern California. I've also been a classroom teacher, a program specialist. I'm a certified behavior analyst, and I also work with the adult population currently as a behavior analyst. Miriam, did you do your introduction yet?
Yes, not yet. And so our brief agenda will do welcome and introductions, the case for education and autism spectrum disorder, what the autism spectrum disorder concentration looks like here at UC Davis Continuing in Professional Education. And most important, at the end, we will open it up for Q&A. We promise not to take more than 15 to 20 minutes going over the first three agendas, and we would like to open up the second half of the session for your questions so that we can be able to provide you with more information. So Kathy is one of our instructors, and she was able to give her introduction. My name is Miriam Vasquez. I am the program manager for the Autism Spectrum Disorder Concentration. I started off my career as a K through 12 paraeducator and have been in higher education program management for the last 17 years. I have a master's degree in educational counseling and have been working with UC Davis Continuing in Professional Education for the last 3 years. And I have 4 children, and I love to hike the beautiful trails of Northern California on my free time. Our last instructor is Professor Ember Fitzgerald. Ember has worked with individuals from birth to adulthood with a variety of special needs, including autism spectrum disorder, emotional disturbance, behavior challenges, and moderate to severe disabilities for the past 11 years. She's worked directly with students with autism and other behavioral and developmental challenges in both public and non-public school systems as an in-home behavior technician, special educator, district behavior specialist, and program specialist for students with autism spectrum disorders. Our program faculty, we went through both Professor Weinman and Professor Fitzgerald's background. The last person that consists of our faculty is Patricia Schechter. And Patricia oversees the California Autism Professional Training and Information Network Project, which provides training, coaching, and resources in evidence-based practices to educators, service coordinators, clinical staff, and families throughout California. She's been serving children on the autism spectrum disorder and with other behavioral and developmental challenges since 1990. She's worked as a classroom teacher, behavior analyst, and as a program specialist for children with autism, and has been an invited presenter at numerous local, national, and international conferences and forums. She is the author of Learning the Ropes, ROPES, for Improved Executive Function and the Autism Program Developmental and Review Protocols. The case for autism, for education and autism spectrum disorders. Before we get started, I would like to put a poll out just to get a better sense of where everyone is located this evening or this afternoon. Wow, we have a good variety. We have folks from Greater Sacramento, a good majority of Northern California folks, and we're about half of the folks on this call are outside of the United States or in the US. And so it seems like a 50-50 split. I'm glad we have some diversity here. Sharing the results with you all. So the case for education and autism spectrum disorder. Kathy, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So as probably most of you have heard in the news and in publications and through the various roles and careers that you may have, or as a parent, autism has been on the increase for quite a while. When I started in this field over 20 years ago, there were literally 2 kids with autism in our whole county. And since then, the numbers have continued to steadily increase. At first, we thought maybe it was because of an increased awareness of the diagnostic criteria or the change in diagnostics, but even accounting for those differences, we know that there is still a prevalence in the cases of autism and continues to be so. We sort of see the increase as sort of a wave, and the wave is now caught up to adults. So when I first started, there were lots of little individuals with autism. Now those guys are all grown up and they're entering their careers, and that impacts careers and higher education for individuals with autism. There are specific strategies needed to help those individuals when they go to higher learning or to different sorts of employment, as well as those kiddos that are still in school. Very specific evidence-based practices and treatments that are appropriate for this population that may not be known about or appropriate for all populations. So I think Miriam has up there the increased prevalence. So you can see, now this here ended, the data ends in 2012, but we still see that same trajectory, increases in people served with the educational category of autism in special ed in California. But we still see this increase even up until the last couple years. And we see the same sort of trajectory, not only in education, but also medically, the medical diagnosis of autism. So, next time we do this, Miriam, we should ask for the career fields that people are in, because I always think this is interesting.
I did.
Oh, you did?
Let me launch that poll real quick. So let me go.
If I'm going too far, let me know and stop me, okay?
Not at all. So occupation, what is your current occupation? We have some educators, some healthcare professionals, mental health counselors, and a lot of others.
Interesting. Next time we do that poll, let's add parents. I think that would be very interesting. A lot of times in my class, we have quite a few parents. Sometimes we have doctors. Sometimes we have a lawyer here and there, which I always think is interesting. And I have an increase in mental health providers, and which I think is fabulous, because not very long ago, there were very few mental health providers that had any expertise or there was a lot of limited expertise in autism in that field, and there's so much crossover. So I'm seeing the need for that increasing and more people in that area coming to the class. So that's great. But we have people who have many, many, many years in the field of autism, and then we have people who who their child or even grandchild may have just gotten diagnosed in the last few months. So there is a huge spectrum of different levels of information people come into the class with. So it's really for all levels.
We do. We have a parent that's also a professor and a stem cell researcher.
Oh, really? Very cool. So I think we talked a little bit about this next slide about the professionals who we think need to understand autism. One that I'm noticing more, kind of it's coming up for me a little bit with what's happening in the world today, but I also think probation officers and police officers and different law enforcement officials would also be somebody who would benefit from learning about autism spectrum disorders. Miriam, I'm up to the evidence-based practices page. Is that one that you'd like me to go ahead and do, or would you like to do it?
Yes, please, if you would.
Okay, so I'll do these two on evidence-based practices, and then I'll pass it over to you.
Perfect.
So the two major meta-analysis of evidence-based practices that we refer to are the National Professional Development Center on Autism and the National Autism Center. These are two of the most up-to-date and well-researched analysis of many different evidence-based practices. And we certainly go into this in understanding autism spectrum disorders, and definitely in the second and third courses, most notably best practices, we'll go a lot into these. Now, that being said, this is a rapidly changing field, and every few years we get more information about evidence-based practices and what's appropriate for this population, and we make changes as we go. So in fact, Miriam and I and the other instructors today just had a meeting about different updates that we need for the classes. This is very cutting edge, front of the line information, and we are always on top of making sure you guys will get the most up-to-date information that may not even be necessarily out to the public as a whole.
That is a great point. I forgot to update the slide to be 2020 instead of 2014.
Right, so Miriam is referring to the NPDC, the National Professional Development Center, updating theirs. The National Autism Center is also going to be updating their piece, and that has not been published yet, but that's coming. And we know when that will happen, and we'll be able to pass along that information to you.
So autism spectrum disorder education at UC Davis CPE. As we mentioned, we have expert and current content. Our courses are offered online, and our audience is very different. We'll talk a little bit first about the expert and current content. And so we are partners with the UC Davis Mind Institute. For those of you that are not familiar with the UC Davis Mind Institute, MIND stands for Medical Investigation of Neurodevelopmental Disorders. And it's a research and treatment center affiliated with the UC Davis and location with facilities at the UC Davis Medical Center in Sacramento, California. The interesting thing about the Mind Institute is that it's a consortium of scientists, educators, physicians, and parents, all dedicated to researching the causes and treatments for autism spectrum disorder, as well as other disorders like Fragile X syndrome and other neurodevelopmental disorders. The Institute brings together experts in fields as diverse as molecular genetics and clinical pediatrics, using a multidisciplinary approach to treating and finding cures for neurodevelopmental disorders. In addition, as I mentioned, we are affiliated with the Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities, abbreviation CEDD for short. And this was established in 2006, and it is one of 67 federally designated university centers across the country. These centers are authorized by the Developmental Disabilities Assistance and Bill of Rights Act and funded by the Administration on Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, part of the Administration on Community Living, within the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. They bring added resources to expand the activities and impact of the Mind Institute, serving as a resource in the areas of education, research, and service, and providing a link to the university and the community to improve the quality of life for individuals with developmental disabilities. And as Catherine mentioned, we are constantly keeping up our content up to date with the latest trends and publications to ensure that we are bringing you up-to-date content. The courses offered. We have 3 courses that we offer. Our starting course is Understanding Autism Spectrum Disorders, which Professor Catherine Wyman is the instructor of. The second course is Applied Behavior Analysis Strategies and Interventions for Autism Spectrum Disorder. Professor Ember Fitzgerald teaches that course. And the last course is the Evidence-Based Practices for Autism Spectrum Disorders. Each of the courses, as you can see here, were 3 academic units, so this is an academic program. With that said, each course consists of 30 hours of classroom time and 60 hours of outside classroom time in the regards to reading, research, and assignments that are needed. You can take a single course or you can take all 3 within a year and finish the concentration. Each course does have a required textbook with outside assignments as well as online synchronous activities. Our courses are offered on the learning management system called Canvas. This is one of the top learning management systems used in higher education and is super easy to navigate. Here is a quick illustration of what it looks like once you are in the online course. We also provide technical support to our students, and there are various tools within the platform that allow for asynchronous and synchronous collaboration with other classmates as well as the instructor. We have trained more than 1,000 professionals since 2006. Our students vary from backgrounds to include healthcare, education, mental health, and as Kathy mentioned, we do have parents, a lot of parents that take our courses as well. We have students from all over the US and most recently within the international market with various levels of experience. Our courses do not require any prerequisites, which make it appealing to many professionals, including parents. Before we get to next steps, I wanted to launch one last poll. So now that you've heard a little bit about the program, how are you feeling about moving forward? Okay, I'm going to share the results. I think that is everybody. So we have a few folks ready to start. It seems like we might only have a few questions since we only have one person that has some lingering questions, and a few folks that need some time to think about it. So I will open it up for Q&A. You can either type it in the Q&A box and or in the chat box. I will read out the questions, and either Kathy or I will answer the questions. My first question has to do with the possibility for applying for financial aid for the Denver START model course. Unfortunately, our courses are not eligible for financial aid, and so they are programs that are out of pocket. Another question, the summer program is from June 26 to when? So our first 2 courses in the program are 10 weeks long, and the last course in the program is 11 weeks long. If you give me 1 minute, I will find the exact dates for you. So our first course, Understanding Autism Spectrum Disorder, begins on June 26th and ends on. How much does the program cost and what is the last date to enroll? Each course is $675, and the last date to enroll is the day or the Friday before classes start. And so the last day to enroll for our Understanding Autism Spectrum Disorders course is June 25th. Though we do, there is a required textbook, and most recently we've had some delays in the textbook delivery, and so I would highly recommend enrolling sooner rather than later. When it comes to classes, do we have a set time for class, or is it more about online homework? Kathy, do you want to answer that?
Sure. So this course is an asynchronous program, which means that you can log on anytime that is convenient for you. And each week you will have different assignments, reading assignments, videos to watch, and discussions with other class members each week that you will need to do by the end of the week. So it can be on your own time during that week, and you have to get everything done within that time. And then after that week is over, the next week is opened by UC Davis Extension for you to start working on.
Also, are the textbooks available online? Do you know the answer to that question, Kathy? I do not. I don't think they are.
I think what you might be asking is, is like an electronic copy available online? And not that I'm aware of, but that would be something that I'd be willing to research and find out. Oftentimes, if things are available in an electronic copy, sometimes they're a little bit less. So that's a really good question. I'll look into that. I mean, like, not right now, but I will get back to you guys.
Do we have any other questions out there? How do you get to know your classmates? There are discussion boards where in the beginning of each course, you are asked to introduce yourself and respond to another student. Kathy, are there other opportunities for getting to know your classmates?
Yeah, definitely. So throughout the course, we have discussion assignments, and most of them I try to have them related to the individual's role as it relates to autism. So that's another way people get to know the different dynamics that take place within each of the roles. And there's discussions between people, like a chat board sort of. So definitely it starts with the introduction discussion that Miriam spoke of, but all throughout the course we have opportunities to get to know each other. And sometimes people will also communicate through the email function within the class also.
Online support. Yes, we offer technical online support. I am also available for any administrative questions, and the instructors are always available via the online platform Canvas should you have content specific questions. So we have technical support, we have content support, and we have administrative support. What are the benefits of achieving the certificate, especially if you're already a working professional? Kathy, could you answer that?
So some different types of certifications require ongoing learning. So for some of the individual careers that we see within the class, those people need units to continue with their certification. Once in a while, there'll be a school district or a regional center or a private company that finds value in this type of specialized education. So a lot of our participants will also add it to their resume if they do choose a different career route at some point. As far as I know, I don't think there's any benefit to increasing pay once you're in a job, but that would completely depend on what your job is. And if that doesn't quite answer your question, maybe you can let me know what kinds of benefits you were hoping for.
Is there a coupon to get the discount? Yes, once we are done with our session, we will send you a survey. Once you complete that survey, you will receive a $100 discount off of the first course, which is Understanding Autism Spectrum Disorders. I took the ESDM workshop. If I choose to be a parent coach, what does that look like? That is a great question, and I will follow up via email to provide you with the website on certification for a parent coach. Could you give some examples of how a week looks like?
I can do that. So I think, Miriam, correct me if I'm wrong here, usually tech opens up the week for the next few days on a Friday.
That's correct.
Okay, and so that gives until the following Saturday at midnight to read through the assigned reading. And so you'll click on, for example, it'll be week 5. You go to week 5 and you'll see a link to the reading, and that will tell you either the chapters in the assigned textbook or other reading sources that are online. Then they'll also have a video presentation with that particular topic. So for example, week 5 is evidence-based practices. So that one would be specific to that. And there's a PDF that goes along with that, so you can read along if that works better for you. And then there's always a discussion assignment or an assignment that you would turn in to me. Most of them are discussions. So for the most part, you'll be reading a prompt, like for example, in lesson 5, the prompt is discuss an evidence-based practice that you might use within your role as it relates to an individual with autism. And you will already know a lot of that because you will have done the reading and watched the video, and you'll write in your prompt, and then people will respond to that, and you can respond back to them. And that will be going on for the duration of the week that people will be discussing in there. And then the last piece is a short self quiz. I think it's usually like 5 or 7 questions. And you just check to see if you got the gist of the content for that week. And then, so you work in your own time during that week. So it's like a week plus a day, and turn everything in by Saturday at midnight. And then typically I do grading. I put in different grades, usually on Sunday or Monday. So almost every week you'll have your grades updated. I think that probably answers that question.
Do you match the people for the discussions?
No, you get to choose yourself. So a lot of times people will read through and find one that's interesting to them, and then you'll get into a discussion with that person. or there might be several people in a discussion about it. So you just kind of get to read through and see which one appeals to you.
A question is, when does the second program start? So we have the Understanding Autism Spectrum Disorder course that is offered. It's the first course in the sequence, and it's offered 3 times a year. It's offered summer, fall, and winter. The second course in the sequence, Applied Behavior Analysis, Strategies, and Interventions. That course is a winter course, which starts in January. And then the Evidence-Based Practices for Autism Spectrum Disorder is the third course, and that's a spring course that starts about March or April. May I know when the next session would be for the classes? And will the coupon code still be available to use for that one? Yes, you could still use the same coupon code for the fall offering of the course. And the dates for that. That course is scheduled to start September 11th and end November 21st. So if we take 3 courses within a year, will we still be able to be certified? The answer is yes. As I mentioned, the courses are available. They're available 3 times a year. So if you start in the summer or fall, you could theoretically be through all 3 courses by next summer. And then the concentration, it's just an application that you can fill out, and it will, if once we verify all of the requirements for the program have been completed, you're issued a certificate of professional concentration in autism spectrum disorder, and that's usually 2 to 3 weeks in the mail. So yes, theoretically you could start the program this year and finish by next summer and have a certificate in hand. So if we take 3 courses, yes, I answered that guy. Do we have any other questions? Any other questions out there? Going once, going twice? Okay, so we have reached the end of our Q&A, it seems. I will check one last time. I think we are good. Here on the screen is my email address and my telephone number. If you have any questions that we can answer, you can forward them to me, and I can forward them to either Kathy or Amber, depending on the type of question that you have. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Yes, I hope to see you all in class. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.